Oh my god, it's another one of these. Load faster. So here I am, again, back at it. It's been a little while, and oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my fucking god. I don't even have words. I just don't. I don't like being mean or critical in reviews because it's someone's work that they're probably proud of, but this is the most horrendous book I have ever read. It's so bad. It's so bad. I cannot believe I have to live my life knowing that I read this absolute mountain of garbage. I read Meow, the first book in the Catnip Assassin series. It's almost a 4-star rated book on Goodreads, which completely baffles me. Here's the fucking blurb of the book. Cat is used to killing people, but for a blank check, she's willing to do the opposite and help solve a murder, even though it sounds boring as hell. That is, until she finds some body parts in her fridge, makes friends with the neighborhood cats, and realizes there may be an assassin better than her. Suddenly, things have become perfectly exciting. An urban fantasy full of cats, secrets, and murders. This is a slow burn reverse harem where Cat will find her love interests over time. Book 1 in the Catnip Assassin series. Now, it doesn't sound like it could be that bad, right? I know I'm fucking crazy. We done been new. It's an interesting take. My standards for entertainment by fiction are incredibly low, and I figured that I would have a good time reading this maybe, because I was like, who the fuck names a book Meow? Just Meow. Like, what the fuck? Turns out there are 7, S-E-V-E-N, 7 books in this series, of which, and I'm not kidding, are titled Meow, Scratch, Purr, Hiss, Lick, Claw, and Roar. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. And get this, as I'm starting to do the retelling, this book is called Meow. The main character is a cat shifter. Her name is Cat with a K. Her organization she runs is called MEOW, you know, Meow, which it's supposed to be an acronym, but it doesn't stand for anything. I'm in hell. Personal turmoil. This isn't a real book. There's no way. This has to be something I dreamed up. Like, no. No. It's ridiculous. The first book was free, so that's why I read it, and as much as I'm intrigued to see how this dumpster fire of a murder mystery, urban fiction, reverse harem, paranormal, whatever the fuck it is, will turn out, there's no way I'm spending real money dollars on them. I just, no. They're not even Kindle Unlimited books, which is why I usually read these type of stories, but like, and before I actually do purchase them when I'm drinking in a this is an investment in my hobbies breakdown situation. But I guess this is where I start my retelling of this shit. So we start off with our protagonist Cat, and we find out she's been raised an assassin as part of this organization called the Pack, and she's on this job where she has to kill this man. She's a very confident and OP main character, as all of these paranormal shifter books usually have, but she comes off a bit more arrogant, maybe, than I'm used to. I'm all for god-modded female protagonists being the strongest people ever, and I love them for it, because God, I wish that were me. But there was just a lot of disconnect between me and Kat. She just wasn't as enjoyable as a protagonist as others I've read about. She also had this weird, randomly timed sense of humor, which is more just the fault of the author, I think, trying to throw in jokes here or there that just didn't land. It was a little bit uncomfortable at times as well. I'm finally no longer a boomer and figured out where to see my highlights from books on Goodreads, so now I'm able to bring up some quotes here or there to prove my point, but I guess maybe for now I'll put that all off until I retell the tale. So Kat's broken into this man's house because he's her mark, and she was sent to take him out by order of her employer, but turns out the man duped and trapped her, but I guess ends up trying to make an offer with her. Kat's a shifter, and by order of the pact, all shifters there are collared to suppress their ability to shift, so they're more enslaved, I guess. So the man offers that he can remove her collar and also give her the house and some money to start her own business, as long as they both pretend that she succeeded in killing him, and that with her company, his requests and contacts take priority over the other work she would get. So after struggling with an internal dilemma, she ends up agreeing, so he takes her collar off, and all of a sudden she starts to struggle with controlling her inner shifter, and there's just a scene of her trying to take over again, and voila, she does. Turns out she's a panther shifter? I don't know. After the agreement, a 6-month time skip happens where she's got her own organization going called Meow, like mentioned earlier, and she has 3 employees, or I guess she calls them colleagues. It's a little back and forth sometimes because she'll be like, we're equals, smile, but then she'll be like, I'm the employer, and I don't know, it's weird to me. But there's Lily, Beth, and Benjamin. Lily is her best friend who apparently isn't into men, but her job at the organization is to seduce information out of them. It's all around kind of awkward because that's the only reference there is about her preferences. Which I understand, it's like some kick-ass, like, ooh, here's a femme fatale girl, but she doesn't like men, so she loves to seduce them and murder them after she gets the information out. But there's just some, like, awkward quotes sometimes. Like, here's one. Lily laughs. Those don't exist. I'm just a sexually liberated woman who knows what to do with her womanly wiles. This time I really do snort into my mug. Womanly wiles? Are you for real? Real as it gets, and what's most important, my boobs are real too. Men like that. Like, it's just a little bit uncomfortable with how many references she makes to, like, attractive men and seduction. Which I guess is a role, but there's also another awkward incident with, I guess, an attempt of WLW content. And an example of why I dislike the humor in this book with this quote. I hear the cats before I can smell or see them. 2 of them, both female, moaning, not in pain, in love. Seriously, did I stumble across a cat date? Just my luck. Like, Now I'm kind of getting off topic into things though, and I'll bring it back around because I have more to talk about on the, like, uncomfortable talk of animals doing it later. One of her other colleagues, Beth, is... well, I'm not really sure. I guess they're all assassins and killers in this house, and supposedly she's a poison expert, but also Lily does that too. Lily and Beth are in the lab for most of the book trying to figure out what's in a poison Kat found, but whatever, I guess. The last colleague she has is Benjamin, who I guess is a stealth expert. Is that what to call it? There was probably a title in the book for it, but he's, like, good at lockpicking, sneaking into places, stealing stuff, like, good at all that shit. There was another uncomfortable thought Kat has at one point in a conversation with Lily about how Lily thinks Benjamin has a crush on Kat, but Kat doesn't see him like that, and I guess this was another attempt at humor by the author. But here's the quote. It's worked out well for both of us, but what I told Lily was right. He's too young for me. 2 years younger than me at the very least, and I'm not into that. I prefer men over boys. Men who know where to stick it and don't have to fumble around helplessly. Like, what? It's just like a throwaway comment that's supposed to be funny, but instead I, like, cringed at it. Like, oh god. Like, here's my own attempt at a joke with this. Haha, Cat isn't into Ben because she's not a cougar, she's a panther. That was better than any joke written in this book. So that's all the members of Meow, and it starts off by Cat being handed a case where this guy wants to find out who murdered his brother, and Cat's all like, we do the killing, not finding the killers. But the guy hands her a blank check and is like, I'll pay anything. So Cat's like, okay, yeah, sure, I guess I'll try. The brother who died, named Winston Kindler, was the owner of a sweet shop and someone who seemed to live a really boring old life. Cat goes to check his house out, but she finds nothing interesting really other than some numbers scribbled on a lawnmower cable and a key that has nothing to unlock. She also goes to the sweet shop that Winston owned, and apparently in his will, he said that all the candy in his store would be given out for free to kids after he died, which is weird. And I instantly was like, okay, so there's gotta be something in that candy. And I was right, but we don't find that out until later. But she meets with the woman currently running the place, I guess. The only employee left. Whatever. Her name is Caitlin, and she's on edge around Cat when she goes to question her and is like, don't touch anything, especially don't go looking in the storeroom. So of course Cat's gonna look in the storeroom. And Cat finds herself there later on, attempting to do her own investigation, but all she finds is pretty much an empty room with a mattress and then a picture and note on the wall. Some kind of note that said, something, bring 100 children, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I read the book over the course of like 3 hours. I don't remember stuff at the beginning, okay? I could fact check, but I'm not gonna bother. It was just like a meeting place address and something about bringing kids there. So our good old pal, the protag Cat, trying to find more fun ways to say her name other than, so Cat did this, so Cat did this, so Cat did this, finds herself at the address she was given and searches the place, and I kind of forget all that she found, but there was like a secret room where she found a hand in the fridge, and it reminded me of Yoshikage Kira from JoJo's because she kind of spent a while talking about how perfect and pretty and well manicured the nails were, and I was like, okay, we get it, you think the hand is nice. And she's like, so we must find the body or whatever, takes the hand home, and her and Lily like figure out it's from a dead woman as opposed to an alive woman. I guess I forgot to mention the whole time this is happening, Cat, like, makes a deal with the local cats around her area that she'll feed them as long as they, like, spy and gather intel for her. So she's got her own crew of, like, spy cats hunting for information on the case as well. Where eventually one of the cats locates this basement across town where they can smell 4 dead corpses in. So Cat heads to the location and ends up finding, 4 dead bodies, one of which was the lady's body that was missing the hand, and another one of which was Winston's body. Since I'm summarizing, obviously I'll be missing some of the details because there's a handful of tiny other things to notice, but mostly she found the bodies, as well as when she's in the basement, one of the owners ends up finding himself down there and removing a finger of one of the bodies. Cat was hiding the entire time, so when he ends up leaving the room, she follows him. He ends up walking to a house that Cat tries to stealthily find her way into. She can hear about like 4 different voices coming from inside the house as well as a fight, but Cat gets caught by some unknown presence at the time and she ends up taking a dart to her neck and passing out. She wakes up and finds herself in a white room and pissed off, but turns out it was one of her old friends, Lennox, who hit her with a dart. Lennox is a wolf shifter who was formerly part of the pack but managed to escape, and he was Cat's best friend back in the day. Although when he freed himself from his collar, he lost control and his wolf took over for like weeks, so he hadn't been able to come find Cat and free her afterwards. So we found this new unnamed employer, because we're not allowed to know who it is, who promised that if he worked for him, that eventually he would help him get Cat back, which now turns out he doesn't need to worry about because Cat is free. Woo! The entire time they're catching up, Cat is like freaking out because this is a romance book and I guess it's supposed to be reverse harem, but I don't think we've met all the boys yet. Or maybe we have, because I can think of a few options at least, but it's not clear. But Cat's freaking out about how attractive he is, and she's mad at her thoughts for thinking that, and she has this whole internal crisis which keeps going on during the book and probably won't ever end. Lennox's employer was apparently in that house, and Lennox apologized for knocking Cat out, and he told her his employer has no idea he has her, so she's safe from that at least. Then a little bit of time passes and some awkward thoughts, and he's like, oh hey, let's go somewhere. And then he leads her to this house where she ends up meeting the mysterious man from the beginning of the tale who freed her. But Lennox doesn't know, and as Kat goes to talk about it, the mystery man is like, yes, we're friends, instead of spilling the tea. So I guess it's probably relevant later, but not like I'm gonna ever know. Anyways, the mystery man tells Kat to back down from her investigation because there's more to the Winston Kindler case than meets the eye, and he doesn't want her involved with that. But because she's the give no shits protagonist that she is, she doesn't back down. But she learns more about the case and what's happening. Apparently, Winston was selling candy that was laced with a poison that only affected shifter children. A candy that's supposed to be used to suppress their shifter forms and never let them use it, but as they learned, the poison wasn't doing exactly that. The candy was in fact killing young shifter kids because there's always a theme of human shifter wars, and humans don't want shifters to take over the world, so, you know, they decide to kill children. Sure is something. I think some of my timeline here is messed up because it's kind of a blur since I read this part all in like one sitting today, so my brain is like, book go burn. At some point during all of this, Kat ends up debriefing her team back at the base of operations, and then Lennox and Kat agree to meet up at this cafe, I guess, and have a discussion about all that's going on. Lennox ends up bringing flowers to this, like, not date, I guess. And Kat makes a whole big internal deal about it because she's not like other girls and hates flowers because she's a murderer of morals who can't accept the fact that children are being killed. Anyways, they talk and discuss the entire situation and decide to work together, so Lennox ends up agreeing and leading Kat to one of the houses of the guys that was at the house that one night, and they snoop around it, finding a hidden room that contained another hidden passageway that led to a lab that was built for torturing test subjects, I guess? And they find a shelf with jars of organs from kids and details about all different kinds of tests they ran on the kids. They both have a discussion with each other and decide that there's no way that these people could have randomly found so many shifter kids, and that obviously the pack must be selling them off. Which also I forgot to mention earlier, I guess there's another organization that's even more trouble than the pack that's in town, and they're called the Fangs. Okay? Okay. So they're both pissed off and go their separate ways, and Kat ends up back in her room in her house, and there's some weirdo dressed in all black who's like hiding in the rafters, and he surprises her, and turns out he's an assassin as well, and he was the one who killed Winston and Caitlin and some other people that Kat was going to talk to, and she's like, well, that's just great, and gotta admit, anticlimactic. I thought it was gonna be this whole like whodunit, let's find out murder mystery, but I guess it's more about tearing apart an organization of criminals who are even worse people than you. Anyways, the weirdo is named Griffin, and he's been tracking this case for 2 months, or at least the case of disappearing shifter kids, and we find out the experiments have been running for like 2 months, and Griffin and Kat make a deal to cooperate. The next day, Kat gets a call from the mysterious man, or it's a meeting or something. Bruh, I can't remember anything. But he confronts Kat and says he doesn't care she can get involved with the case because his granddaughter is a shifter kid who got sick. So Kat's now stressing the hell out because, oh god, kids are all getting sick around them because of the candy. The mysterious man gives Kat 3 addresses, conveniently enough for her, Lennox, and Griffin, to people who were involved, so they all dash out to interrogate and I guess murder these people. Kat finds 2 people at the house she was given, so she jumps on into the process and ties up a woman who isn't cooperative, so she goes to the man and tortures information out of him and then kills him. To be honest, for a book that's got very not great scenes in it, the torture and poison explanation scenes were always a little bit like too well written. It was This book really reminds me of what I was like when I was like 15 and wanted to get into forensics, so I used to study bloodstain pattern analysis in my spare time. Like, the author just kind of emits that kind of energy. But anyways, Kat tortures the information of the man and how there's an antidote and the location of where it's stored, so she zooms her way to the address and manages to contact both Lennox and Griffin with the powers of her cat spy network while she attempts to locate the antidotes. She does, and it's a full-out rush to distribute them to all the families with sick kids, which normally it would be hard to tell, but apparently cats can smell the sick kids because they smell different, so everybody gets their own seeing nose cat, I guess. They rush to give them out to everyone they can, but still some kids are dead before they reach them. Kat also called the mysterious man to tell him that they got the antidote, but turns out his granddaughter was one of the kids who had already passed before they got their hands on the antidote. I think that's kind of where the book ends off. I omitted a lot of details about like the cat spy network, so I'll just talk about it a bit because Riker, the leader of the cats, is relevant. He's the one who calls the shots around the cat group, and Kat had to talk to him a few times. But there's one point when Beth and Lily were trying to like reverse engineer the poison or something, where they wanted to borrow blood samples from a human, a cat, and a cat shifter. So they used Kat and Riker as the cat shifter and cat blood samples, but the whole twist at the end of the book is Lily just going, Kat, we found something out about Riker. He's not just a cat, but he's a cat shifter as well. It's supposed to be like a dun 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 moment, but like throughout the entire book, there were a lot of awkward thoughts from Kat about how some of the cats were attractive and like bizarre quotes. I'm talking real bizarre and cringy, and it felt out of place. Just gave me like whiplash and stuff I don't even want to quote, but like with all that, you kind of have to assume the fact that one of the cats in the gang is a shifter, right? If it's a reverse harem book with shifters, surely there's more than just the protagonist and the childhood friend. Am I right, ladies? Am I right? Anyways, the book kind of grew on me a little bit as I was reading it, and I got invested in the whole drama of it, but it was just pretty badly written. It was an easy read, as most of these books are, and enjoyable a bit, but like half the time I was cringing, and the other half I couldn't even look at the book anymore. I had to like get up and be like, oh my fucking god. I probably could have lived my life without reading this book, but now I have to exist on the same mortal plane that it exists on. Easily a 1 out of 5 star book. I mean, I usually rate these types of stories pretty low, even though I enjoy them because they're not exactly masterpieces. They're more like silly but entertaining ways to occupy my time. There's a lot wrong with this book though, so like who knows if I'll ever return to the series, but I don't think I'll be forgetting this book anytime soon. It certainly was an interesting use of a couple of hours. Couple of hours that I will never get back. Well, that's that. I fucking hell.